Welcome to the Alphagenix podcast, where every week we talk to incredible guests from the world of health, well-being, biohacking, longevity, and of course, men's health. And today I'm delighted to introduce Bertie Stringer. Bertie, you're a naturopathic clinical nutritionist.
That's it, yeah.
And more than that, the co-founder of DNA as well. So can't wait to get into exactly what you do today.
Yeah, look, first of all, thank you for having me on, Ross. Obviously, we've known each other a while, and we're both in the same field of men's health. And what's great is that I think we seem to be having a movement. When we first started our company 5 years ago, there just was nobody would be talking about the things that you and I talk about, and thankfully more mainstream media and more people are generally getting an understanding about, and I think we've got kind of menopause movement to thank for that. But yeah, it's really great to be talking about testosterone and seeing the research and science and understanding backing up what we have known for quite a long time about it, and it's now finally getting out there and people starting to have more conversations about it, because you and I both know it's completely fundamental for men's health, well-being and longevity.
Yeah, 100%. And if I go back, my diagnosis was a long time ago, 10 years ago, and for 8 years I just didn't talk about it with anybody.
Yeah.
It was only when I was talking to a coach about that it dawned on me that it wasn't just because it didn't come up in conversation, but there is this sort of societal pressure or a taboo around the subject. And it was a couple of years ago where I thought, no, do you know what? I really need to have a voice about this, because there are many men out there that have no voice, or worse, don't even know that low testosterone is a thing.
You're right about all of that. I still feel that there is undoubtedly still a taboo about it. I think there are so few kind of celebrity advocates, in the menopause movement, that every kind of popular mainstream female over the age of 40 is happily now talking about it, got a book about it, got a show about it. And that's really enabled people to feel, oh, this is okay, we can talk about this, but it just hasn't happened for men. I think it's getting better, but I still feel that we are stuck in a really unhelpful and old-fashioned notion about what testosterone does and doesn't do. It needs a rebrand. I think we're still in a hangover from the 80s and 90s, sex muscles, sex muscles, sex muscles. Now, you and I both know, yes, of course, it is involved in sex and muscles, but it is completely fundamental to men's health. And low testosterone is implicated in all early causes of death in men. Fact, it's out there. It's in the British Medical Journal. Yeah. And I think COVID, the links quite early on, they were looking at why are more older men in particular dying around the world than women. I think you'll find it was nearly twice as many older men. And they realized there was a link between the low testosterone and your outcome from COVID. So men that were going into hospital with low testosterone were 6 times more likely to die than men with normal levels. And also men that had COVID, and certainly the longer COVID, were still struggling, 6 months, a year afterwards, to get their health back. So, that's a really different narrative to, oh, we need it to pump, in the gym and for our libidos. It couldn't, you couldn't really get much more evidence than that. It's involved, for immunity, which they didn't know 5-10 years ago. So I really think that the education piece is enormous. And sadly, I don't think that, the likes of you and I, we're pushing away, but it's still not widely talked about or written about. And interestingly, I'm a publicist for, you know, old trade as well. And the media are more interested in female testosterone than they are in men's, because that's acceptable to talk about. And I find that really challenging and really frustrating, because men need to understand more about this, and from a younger age as well.
Yeah, totally agree. In the press, you know, we've kind of had Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, sliced alone. Now we've got The Rock, you know, openly saying they do use testosterone and other things, which is
growth hormone.
Exactly. So, but they're talking about it very much from a muscle point of view, right? That's a physique point of view. You then, you know, more sort of up to date Dan Bilzerian, he's open about using it, but that's very much geared towards a libido point of view. When is the content, Jeff Bezos, you know, nobody goes looking from the way he did to the way he does without TRT, but no one's talking about all-cause mortality, longevity, mental clarity, mental health. It's just about physique.
Totally. And why were they not talking about that COVID statistic? You know, why? I really do not understand. It was reported on, but I don't know why that kind of didn't have a real ripple effect, because if it's recent, it's vast evidence, it's from around the world, it's not disputed. If that wasn't the time for either, you know, people in health or media to actually say, hang on a second, what's going on here? We should dig into that a bit more. I don't know what was. And I think that the only reason we talk about sperm health now, even though testosterone levels and sperm levels, they've gone hand in hand, they've depleted 50+% in 50 years. And again, if people don't need any more statistics to wake up and smell the coffee, what does that mean for our younger men and future generations? I mean, that's terrifying. But the reason sperm health is talked about, Ross, is because people are trying to make babies and they can't. So they're finding out, they're forced to deal with the situation. And also, you know, they're more likely to talk about it because it's a thing that's brought out in couples, etc. But we still have this stigma with actually talking about fundamental, like you say, mental health. You know, I don't know about your diagnosis, but my partner, husband, and co-founder Sheldon, you know, they were the doctors just depression. Here's some Prozac. We know that hormones are fundamental to well-being, mood, and you know it's clearly linked with depression. But there is just still such confusion out there about it. And you know, that was also kind of why back then we started kind of digging into this and looking at what was going on out there, because a lot of men know there's a problem, but they can't put their finger on what it is. They far more unlikely to go to the doctors as well. And then when they are, the health professionals, in the same way that they were with menopause, I left the doctors 5 years ago with Prozac as well. I didn't need Prozac. I was perimenopausal. There is still, sadly, I feel, a real barrier, a real lack of understanding, and a real lack of help.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Hitting the nail on the head there. And there's all sorts of reasons why. Firstly, men don't talk. You know, that's fairly widely accepted for whatever reason, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I think it's a very complex, deep problem. And the other possibly controversial thing is, do we want to change it? Because if all of a sudden men start opening up to everybody, but the people they open up to aren't ready for that, maybe they get sacked, maybe they get ridiculed, maybe they get divorced, maybe suicide rates go up instead of down. So it's a big problem. It's not easy.
I think what you said there is really interesting, because I was watching this morning have covered Andropause, which, you know, a lot of people argue, does andropause exist? Andropause literally means, in Greek translation, the decline of male hormones. So you and I both know from peaking at kind of 18, 19, and decreasing now much more rapidly than it used to. Yes, there is andropause, and 40+% of men over the age of 40 are showing symptoms. But a man was on there talking about, he was a journalist actually, really opening up, talking about his struggles, his issues. And I've got the screenshots because I actually put it in a deck talking about leveling gender playing fields and talking about men's hormonal health. And the women ridiculed him. They were like, we can't even have, at menopause, how ridiculous, we can't, they're even now trying to take over, we can't even have menopause to ourselves. And, that made me really angry because firstly, I just don't think that you should ever mock anybody's health condition. You don't walk a day in their shoes. You don't know what's going on. But I think I can say this, I'm a woman, and I'm very aware from a really early age about my hormones, because we have periods, we have pregnancy, we have endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, we have everything. We have to talk about it from 10 probably. But men, their parents might say, oh, he's got so much testosterone when he's 14, 15. But then that's it. It's not brought up, is it? So if we have a deep understanding and a deep connection with our hormones, and we know on every single day how they can impact our mood, our appetite, our ability to concentrate, why are we not is making a quick connection that the men in our life will be going through the same. So I do think you're right, and I hope that's not the kind of society's got better with that. But saying that this doesn't exist and men don't go through the same issues than we do is incredibly unhelpful.
Yeah, without a doubt. A lady actually, she wrote a very, very scathing blog about me last year.
Okay.
And published that off to tens of thousands of people about my brazen toxic masculinity. My wife was probably chained to the kitchen sink. How could I possibly say that there was a menopause, an andropause? It was quite funny actually. But yeah, that was another example of exactly what you've said there. I think if you think about it logically, men and women go through puberty and obviously show signs of our hormones changing. So why on earth would we think it stopped there and it didn't happen at the other end? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, it is obvious, but people don't make the connections. And we live in a society where we want to be told things for it to be true, don't we? Someone else needs to tell us, someone else needs to show us. I need to see that in 5 different news sources even though we all know the problems with that, for that to be considered real. And if the mainstream media aren't reporting about it, the retailers, for example, I'm working really hard with some of the retailers at the moment who I have to say are really open. And we're having open conversations, but there is no men's hormonal health category, Ross. So for products like ours, they don't know what to do with us. And only recently, in the past couple of years, got a menopause section, but they can't. There hasn't been any kind of anticipation, understanding that men need help for similar problems. Now they acknowledge the symptoms, so there will be a hair loss product, probably a hair loss drug, to be honest with you. And there's a lot of problems, as you and I both know, with the hair loss drugs that lead to ED. Some of them are being explored for actually the awful side effects that they're causing. So they've got. And they've got Viagra, they've got this, they've got that, they've got all the symptoms of hormonal imbalance and issues, but nowhere, particularly naturally, no product category for them. And it's not going to be until you start seeing and hearing the big brands like Boots and Superdrug, or any Lloyd's, anyone, all speaking from the hymn sheet, that I really genuinely feel it's going to really trickle down into most people's awarenesses.
Yeah, absolutely. In my head, I just keep thinking about this big media campaign that just says men have hormones too. It's simple as that. Like, let's just drive the conversation.
I was driving past a bus stop the other day, and it said 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer. And like you, I was like, but 1 in 4 men have low testosterone. Like, that's amazing that we're doing this, but that we're just missing something so enormous here. And I'm struggling to understand why. It's now, as though there was a study last year, low testosterone deficiency is now the 6th most common male issue in the UK. Depression is number 8. So look how far we've come in men's mental health and all the wonderful work. So many, and it's charities mainly that have pushed that and led that, and some brave, again, celebrity kind of well-known men talking about that. We've come a long way, but how have we got something kind of that's more of a problem than that no one taken by the balls, literally, and owning. And I don't have the answers, Ross.
When you say it like that as well, it's crazy to think, isn't it? Because mental health obviously is a huge issue, but one that we are starting to tackle. Yeah. But it's specific. It affects our mental health.
Yeah.
Low testosterone affects every system within the body. Yeah. So it affects our mental health, but our physical health, our sexual health, every organ. Like, surely that therefore requires attention. But I mean, to go back to something else you said before, and I've spoken to a number of doctors about this, during all of their studies on the way to becoming a doctor, Andropause has about 30 seconds in the curriculum. It's just, oh yeah, by the way, this is a study of men's health, andrology, and occasionally maybe hormones change. On to the next thing. So it's just not on their radar, I don't think.
It isn't, and neither is nutrition. So, I know this from all my work in clinic, and also that is also where I started seeing the same pattern with more and more men in my clinic that were perimenopausal, menopausal symptoms, and thinking, what's going on here? And then functionally testing them, and every single one of them had low testosterone. And this was from kind of, the age 30 onwards. There wasn't one that had optimum testosterone levels, but I think that's also my frustration with doctors and going and talking to someone in the medical profession about this, is that your ideas of optimal and my ideas and naturopaths' ideas that we have are not the same. If I go and get my blood tested and I'm looking at my ferritin levels, my iron stores, if I am either on the line or even 1 over, say the line is 200 and okay is 100, I'm on 99, 100, I'll be sent away saying, you're fine. No one's asking why I'm not the other end of the scale, and also where I'm going to get to by the next time I see them, which is a sliding scale. I'm going to go down. Now, I've probably got symptoms at that point, tired, fatigued, all the things that we know iron helps you with. But you've had your box ticked and you're normal, and off you go. It's not helpful at all. And also, I know that it's the same with thyroid. They're not necessarily testing the right things, Ross, are they? And you know this because of the in-depth panels that you go into. You can't look at something in isolation. Whether you're producing testosterone or not, yes, interesting. Obviously, you need to know that. But is it free testosterone? What are your other markers doing at the same time? They all tell a story. All your hormones work together. We know this with women. That's why HRT is broken down into different components, testosterone being the one that's missing at the moment. But we know this. So I don't understand why there isn't any sort of new training or new updates, because the doctors seem to be getting there with menopause. So
I had a lovely conversation with a doctor the other day, and he described the endocrine system like an orchestra. And he said, you know, every single part has to be working in harmony. And if one of them's out, it doesn't work, and you notice the difference. I thought it was quite a lovely way to think about it. Our doctors, actually, we start off by sending them on a course run by Harvard, which have got some good information in there about the men's health. So that's quite a good way for them to sort of learn the basics, if you like, and then we go from there. So tell me now then about DNA, because obviously your husband was having problems similar to mine, went back a long way, wasn't getting the help available, or wasn't getting any help, similar to me. That took me down a TRT path, the pharmaceutical eventually, and you've gone down a different path. You're on the natural side. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I think you know, obviously being married to a naturopathic nutrition probably had a lot to do with his path, to be honest with you. But, you know, we're back in 2018. Sheldon was just turning 40. Now, also what I find really interesting about the testosterone issue or representation is that Sheldon is a really big guy. He's 6'4". He's what people would consider an alpha male, South African. He's a fitness trainer, martial artist. He would be the poster boy for someone that looked like they had got high testosterone or was on steroids. He had no testosterone, wasn't on anything, and he couldn't get out of bed, was really struggling, couldn't do what he wanted to do, and was really grumpy. And he's a really happy-go-lucky guy, glass half full, and he really didn't like this about himself at all. And we were just about to get married. He'd lost his libido, which isn't great when you've got a fiance. And he would literally say that thing that you heard, they joke about for years. It's not you. It's really not you. I haven't got the energy. Haven't got it in me, literally. Yeah. This led to the doctor's depression, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I'm not depressed. I'm not taking that. And I said, you're 100% right. You're not. But yeah, it was literally this perfect storm of seeing these men in my clinic, and I'm used to dealing with female hormones, testing them. And then they all said to me, right, what can we do about this naturally? And I'm really well equipped to help women with their symptoms and fire nutrition. Went out there and looked at the testosterone issue, and just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the size of it, the fact that, we have got this clear decade by decade rapid deceleration of levels. Yeah. There's this fact that a man in his 30s now has the same testosterone levels as his granddad did 30 years ago. That for me, it was such shocking news. And I really just wanted to get a soapbox out and say, why are you not, God, is it me? Do you not all care about this? I found it really bonkers that it was all out there. And the only natural products that I could find were deeply entrenched in sports nutrition. Mm-hmm. So they were basically saying, if you don't work out, testosterone isn't a problem for you and you're not interested in it. And that, again, it's like, that's insane. You're all men because you have testosterone. So it's just saying it's for these guys over here is just, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that with women. Yeah. And also it was a one size fits all. Here's a tablet. Doesn't matter whether you're 20 or 70. Here's a tablet. Off you go. Now, again, I think because I am looking at things through a female lens, through how I approach perimenopause, menopause, different stages have got different needs. Your nutrient needs in your 20s are not the same as your 70s. Your hormones in your 20s are not the same as in your 70s. Sheldon and I really believe that we we could do better, and actually that we needed to do better. This isn't modern. We live in a world where personalization is everything. We need to really understand our life cycles and how we change as we age, and prevention. We just looked at it from a completely different perspective, and we literally tore up everything that everybody else was doing and said, we're not going to do that. So we decided to formulate only in powders. Now, the first thing we're taught at the College of Natural Medicine, which is Hippocrates, do no harm, and the gut, you have to heal the gut.
Yeah.
We all have, and thankfully awareness of that since I was at college at medicine school has changed enormously. We know this. But if you take a tablet, and I'm talking about a vitamin tablet, it has to undergo the digestive tract. Depending on the person and the state of their microbiome, you're looking at between 30 to 40% absorption. Powders go activated straight in the mouth, go straight into the bloodstream, much more bioavailable, much better for you, 95% absorption. So we were like, right, first of all, we're doing that, and we only formulate in powders, which also you take as a daily drink. Taking with the equivalent of kind of 16 to 20 separate pills, it's just much easier. And then we said that your testosterone in your 20s, 30s shouldn't be as rapidly declining as it is post 40. Now, you and I both know this is really varied. Unfortunately, again, it seems the younger ages, that certainly from the studies that I've seen, under 30, we're now seeing a lot more men that have got testosterone issues that we would never have seen before, Ross, ever. We've got a metabolic crisis. So diabetes is increasing your chance of low testosterone by, 40, 50%. Nutrient deficiencies, really it is as basic as, if your body doesn't have the basic nutrients it needs, it cannot work properly. It's the endocrine system again. You vitamin D, steroid hormone, people don't realize that. Building block of hormones. 80 to 90% of the country and the world, sadly, are vitamin D deficient. It only takes one deficiency for your body not to be able to do what it's supposed to be doing. So we said, we need to address those in whatever our products are as well. We need to give people the best chance of being able to get their own body to work effectively. Lifestyles are a massive problem, and environmental toxins. I mean, I could talk to you all day long about that. That's probably one of the biggest battles we're going to have moving forward with male and female hormones. The plastics and the pollutions and the toxins and the xenoestrogens are rapidly accelerating this decline. So what we did was we said, right, let's look at our younger guys, who we call them, where have I got one here? We call them our wolves. And actually, we should explain. So we call ourselves the Manimal Kingdom, and all of our brands have got names: White Wolf, Silverback, Grey Fox. And this was Sheldon, who is a graphic designer and does brand. He said, look, God, talking about testosterone, so unsexy. No one wants to talk about it. So let's be playful. Let's be fun. Let's be warm. Let's be inviting. Let's try and make you part of our world. Join the Manimal Kingdom. Are you a wolf? Are you a fox? Are you a silverback? Things that people can relate to. It's just trying to break down those walls and stigmas. And, men say to us, well, we're not embarrassed if your product falls out of our bag at the gym. I'll quite happily say I'm a wolf. I'm taking this because. But we broke the ages down into 25 to 40, which is our White Wolf. And what we're trying to do here, there's a lot going on with these age groups because they're the baby makers, Ross. And we know sperm is a massive problem. So we look at hormonal health, like you were talking about this orchestra. We're looking at health, and looking at how we optimize all of your hormones to do the job that nature intended them to do, which is to make them on a daily basis overnight. So these guys work hard, play hard. We built a formula, which all of our formulas have got the same kind of core base, which it looks at those common nutrient deficiencies. So there's vitamin D, zinc. Zinc has legal EFSA claims about testosterone and hormonal health. So does B6. All the B vitamins like to work together, so that they're in there as well. Vitamin C, wonder mineral magnesium, which the body needs in abundance, and many men don't get enough of. So we build those in as the core, hoping that over time any nutrient deficiencies that you have will well, yeah, our wolves, we know that they're baby makers. We know that they've probably got testosterone. They're probably not thinking about testosterone, and they're probably not thinking about the fact it's decreasing. So what we're really trying to do is trying to maximize their body's potential to keep making it. You know, don't let it get to a point where it's getting really deficient. We have a ingredient across all of our men's blend that is a patented ingredient called Furosap that comes from fenugreek seed, and that has got amazing clinical evidence about optimizing, boosting natural testosterone levels, and all, like you were saying earlier, all the other things that come with it. You don't just do that without getting other results. You know, the sperm levels, motility were increasing. Erection frequency and rigidity were increasing. Memory recall was increasing. All of the amazing, wonderful benefits that healthy hormones bring you. So that's in all of our blends. But then in White Wolf, you've got maca, you've got vitamin E. There's just, it looks at the goals and the pain points of men at that point and what's going on with them biochemically. And so then we know 40 plus is when things can really start to become very, very noticeable. This is where those andropause symptoms will come in, the fatigue, the falling asleep in front of the TV at 9 o'clock. And one of the first signs is waking up in the morning without an erection, because that's when testosterone is restoring overnight alongside cortisol and other hormones, and you're supposed to have all the gas in the tank that you need for a good day. And if it's not, and sleep has a massive amount to do with that. The studies have shown, 1 or 2 nights of broken sleep or less than 5 hours sleep, you're going to halve your testosterone levels the next day. So this 40 to 55 age group, we know they can be really suffering. So Silverback is the first andropause supplement in the world, again, and which amazes me. The problem is with that, we have to educate people what is the andropause for them to understand they need that, but they do relate to the symptoms. When you start talking about symptoms, people relate to them. And then we look at guys 55 plus, and you and I both know that your 50s are the new 40s. That is not old in today's standards at all. You're seeking longevity at this point, and disease prevention, and just wellness, and wanting to lead your life to your best ability for as long as possible. And, the fear of Alzheimer's, which we know is related to hormones, low testosterone, we all really trying to have that cognitive function maintained. And so Grey Fox looks at what these men of this age really need. And also there's some prostate support in there as well, because we know, again, that is a really common problem. There's some nitric oxide in that support for erections. So, and this is kind of 2 years deep dive into really understanding what is going on out there, and how we could make the most effective evidence-based products on the market, and that is what we've done. We're very, very proud of that, and we're just chipping away and waiting for for the world to catch up. But, you know, we've got men who, you know, have just had a, like they do with you, a complete change of life from it, just feel themselves again. And even if they feel a little bit better, and we know it takes time, things do not, they take years to get to the point they've got to. They can't be expected to change, particularly naturally, overnight. But you can do no harm with nutraceuticals. And, you know, it's just great that more and more people are investing and paying attention to their hormonal health alongside all the other things that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful to hear everything that you've achieved in a short space of time. And as you say, it is incredible when you get those stories, there's people coming back just saying, wow, like I have just had this newfound drive for life. I forgot what it was like. It's like, you know, I'm me again. You know, that's commonly, isn't it, what you get after initially, and you said this earlier, men come and they say, I don't know what's wrong. I can't put my finger on it, but something's not quite right. But when it comes back, you notice, like, because you get that drive back again. And I'm sure Sheldon, when that came back, you noticed as well.
And it's a relief, isn't it? It's a massive relief. And I also think with men that one of the biggest thing for them is validation, Ross. There's a name for it. There's a reason I'm feeling like this. We can, you know, we'll just say, oh, it's our hormones, or it's perimenopause, it's menopause. But guys don't talk like that. You know, it would have been called, my dad would have said it was grumpy man, middle-aged man syndrome. And well, hang on a second. That's exactly that's andropause. You're describing andropause. And it's been around for a long time, but there's no one's paid attention to it or given it a name or explained it. And I think it's that validation that, oh, you know what, it's my hormones. And also I do think that from a relationship perspective, if you have a perimenopause and menopausal woman, andropausal men, and a roughly kind of age, even if you're within 10 years of age of one another, one of you is going to be in that zone. If we're trying to understand female hormones, and we've made massive efforts for men to kind of understand that, then there's a massive opportunity for you know, opening of conversations. Well, it isn't you, it's me. And if you have two people that libidos have gone, or they're not feeling themselves, and they don't talk about it, that's where these things, you know, affect relationships. But we're all in the same boat ultimately at the end of the day. And we all want the same things, which is to feel a little bit more like ourselves and protect ourselves from future disease. So, you know, just opening up male and female conversations as well, I think is amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And that communication is so important, isn't it? Between a couple, between two people, whether it's male, female, male, male, whatever it might be, you have to have that honest communication. We do come across, I'm sure you do as well, where that relationship is really broken down, and it's because they can't communicate. And sometimes when they say, you know, it's me, it's not you, but the other person hears you're having an affair. And then it just goes in two different directions altogether, because they can no longer be honest and say, actually, it's not that I don't find you attractive, but it's just my libido is gone. I think probably this might be different to get your perspective on this, but I think that might be even worse for a man, because so much of our persona, if you like, is linked to virility and linked to strength and linked to sexuality, I guess, in a way. So I think it's hard for a man to say that. What do you think?
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. And I also think, sadly, this is where you get the first easiest option of when there's kind of any sort of sign of issues like that, or symptoms, that, you know, they will just pop out and get some Viagra, or get some this and get some that, and, you know, just go online, don't need a prescription for half of it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not dealing with any of the problems at all. You know, you and I both know testosterone is rarely the reason for erection problems, but it is for the loss of libido, which then puts pressure on the performance side of it, which then leads to anxiety. So it ED can happen from that. And you've got this kind of cascade, and all the Viagra in the world isn't going to solve that. And also, particularly if your partner doesn't know you're taking it, and you know, it's you've got the shame. I just find it a shame, a real shame that we can't be more open about this. You know, if men even kind of understood, well, hang on a second, that loss of morning erection, okay, well, it's not just I'm aging, blah, blah, blah. Hang on a second, that is because of that. Well, I didn't know that. So let's have a look a bit more into that. That isn't I need Viagra, is it, Ross?
Exactly.
You know,
the crazy thing is we've known for many, many years that 7 to 8 years after a man starts to develop ED, he will likely have a cardiac event.
Yeah.
We know that because 70%, as you say, it's not normally hormonal, 70% is blood flow. The first blood vessels that are going to be affected are the smallest ones. They're in the base of the penis. We've known that for years, and yet we still haven't made it a big thing. You know, men should, as soon as it happens, they should say, right, okay, why is this?
Yeah.
How can I improve my blood flow? How can I improve my diet? Well, testosterone reduces plaque formation in the arteries. It's going to help to prevent these things. It's incredible. And I think another thing that's wrapped up in this as well, and I know this because I've experienced it, is I didn't realize quite how important those nighttime and morning erections were until they were starting to not happen as often. And actually, when they are there, it gives you a spring in your step. It's like confirmation that you are still who you are supposed to be, if you like.
Yeah, it's like a traffic light system, isn't it? That's there and then not working anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So when that does start to return with supplementation or with even low dose tadalafil, low dose vasodilators actually have a lot of really powerful evidence to say they're incredibly beneficial. And I think fast forward 10 years, most men over 40 will take a 12 to 16 week course every year of a low dose tadalafil or something similar like Cialis, because it opens the blood flow, brings those things back, is also great for physical performance, great for cognitive enhancement, and has almost no side effects. It's close to being a miracle drug, really, from the research I've read.
Okay, that's really interesting. But I think it also comes back down to another point that none of this is in isolation, is it? You know, if you are 4 stone overweight and you lead a sedentary lifestyle and you're drinking, so you're not sleeping properly and you're nutrient deficient, you can take all the products you want in the world, your version, my version, whatever people want. That is not going to help the underlying problem at all. And it's going to get worse. And I think, sadly, this is also one of the drivers of this rapid deceleration of testosterone levels, and why, sadly, I think it's going to get worse. You know, we're in a diabetes crisis, aren't we? This is really, really impacting hormone levels and and many other things. And unless you actually look at, you know, what am I doing? What can I actually take control of myself? Well, I mentioned it earlier. Sleep is the cheapest, quickest, best way in the world to improve your health, not just your hormonal health, but your health. You know, end of all cause, I think, mortality is reduced when you're sleeping properly, and you can actually think the next day, you don't have brain fog, etc. So, you know, it's looking at things like that. How much stress am I under? How many drugs am I taking? And I'm not talking about illegal drugs, although I'm sure that, you know, that doesn't help as well. And steroids is a whole other issue. But, you know, just the constant amount of things, over-the-counter drugs we consume, you know, that when making us nutrient deficient, actually giving us more side effects. We take another drug. You know, we really, really do need to start taking better control and recognition of how, you know, optimal health and wellness works. And, you know, your point earlier, I mean, I'm obsessed with biohacking, but you can't start off biohacking. There is, you know, you've got to start with the basics. And also that's another reason we have White Wolf. Healthy aging starts in your 20s, doesn't start in your 40s. Yeah. You need to be doing this stuff from your 20s. You need to move more, eat less, eat better, eat cleaner, sleep more, find better ways to get some of the stress out of your lives. And, you know, you're less likely to have the need for any one of the treatments or therapies that we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, it boils down to controlling the controllables. Like testosterone is going down, sperm is going down. I agree with you. We probably can't change that, certainly not on an individual basis, because you look at the reasons why. Well, food is becoming less nutritious. Why is that? Well, it's GMO, it's pumped with new toxins, all sorts. Then look at the quality of the soil. There's no soil rotation, so the farming is deteriorating. That is not going to change anytime soon. You mentioned the hormone disruptors and the plethora of toxins that are in our plastics and our water supply and our sun cream and our moisturizer. That isn't going to change anytime soon. But if we control our own controllables, well, sleep, as you say, is it's the most fundamental thing that we can change. It doesn't cost anything. It's the free biohack, if you like. Underpins the rest. We can control that. We can control how much direct sunlight we get. You mentioned vitamin D, you know, improved by sun exposure. Also, as most people don't realize, is a steroid. And testosterone comes from cholesterol. Cholesterol's not bad. It's the triglycerides, isn't it? And we know they come from sugar, not fat. So it comes back to diet, eat whole foods, nutrient dense, rich foods. And we're starting to build a picture of these are the things I can control. I can't control what the government is doing or the NGOs are doing or whatever they're driving in terms of pharmaceuticals and big food, but you can control these things. And if you can then take supplements like yours and negate the need for TRT, then we're a big fan of that. But once it goes beyond, often men or you know, or later in life as well, that's when sometimes they do need TRT. So I think what you do and what we do complement each other really, really well.
And I think I mentioned it to you earlier. It's also that's the way that you know, menopause is looked at. Perimenopause is looked at is that we have a wide range of options available to us, and that's also what's great now, that there are options, and it's the education part. What can I do? What is right for me? Because what's right for me is not necessarily what's right for you. How chronic are my symptoms? How much is it impacting my daily life? What am I, you know, trying to achieve here? And I think just the sharing of information and looking at the research and evidence out there, you know, we feel really strongly about that. It's not take our word for it. Let's look at all the recent science and research, and thankfully there's a lot more coming out now, isn't there? And let's look at what it's telling us and what we can do to support it. And I think it's all about empowerment. I think, and also COVID, I think really kind of people have fallen in love with science again. I mean, you know, some of it, I think we is not, maybe some there are some untruths, but my point is that we all want to do more for ourselves. We don't want to rely on somebody else to sort us out. The lack of access now to GPs is meaning we Google our symptoms and we create our own scenarios now, don't we? And I think there's going to be a much bigger reliance on the private sector and on nutrition, wellness and supplements moving forward than there ever has been before, because we are filling a need that is there. And also we're giving people the power to take control over their own health. And that's really what we all want to do. We want to look at healthy aging, disease prevention, and living our best lives for as long as possible. And then sadly, there's lots of gaps now in providing that, isn't there?
Oh, there definitely is, and part of that is definitely there is so much information out there, isn't it? And it's do things like this where we can share evidence-based research, because you can find anything online. If you believe the moon landing happened or whether you believe it didn't, you can find evidence of that. It's that positive confirmation bias. And there are some very very high profile people out there now saying things like a cold shower will boost your testosterone by 400%.
Eat onions, and you're completely right. It's an absolute minefield, and it's usually there's an awful lot of influencers and people that have got no qualifications whatsoever that are sharing information that isn't true. And there's also a lot of unethical people out there, Ross. Something that really we feel really, really strongly about at DNA. We're bound by certain ethics. I am as a nutritionist, and the claims that are being made using ingredients that are not that are called novel foods, not legally approved for use. Making complete exaggerations. It isn't helpful. I do feel for people trying to navigate this space. We're launching the academy part of Dynamic Nutrition Academy later this year, which is basically for that, Ross, to try and help people navigate this minefield, and with experts and people, leaders in their field, giving the information as it is. Because it is very, very confusing to people, and depending on which source you're reading from, there's a lot of unhelpful untruths out there. Without a doubt. Okay, well, hopefully we haven't me and you haven't covered this fully off yet, but I'm hoping that we will be able to offer your products very soon. Amazing.
To our guys, and we'll have that on our website as well. But in the meantime, because that's got some work to do, I'm sure, including you agreeing, that hopefully, how do people get in touch with you now? So what's your website? What's social media handles?
So our website is dynamicnutritionacademy.com. We're actually in the middle of repositioning at the moment, which is really interesting, and maybe we'll talk another time about female testosterone, because there's obviously been a big movement and big interest in that, and being testosterone experts, it was easy for us to kind of pivot and move into that as well. But I think what's going to be really great is we're going to be in a rare position of being almost a hybrid hormonal health model, and that we can educate men about women's hormones, we can educate women about men's. And I think that's what's going to be so amazing, that we're trying to just, break down the stigmas and taboos and talk about all these subjects. And I also think women are really pivotal to doing that, Ross. They're really helpful because of their own relationship with hormones in helping recognize these symptoms in men. So I think there's a really great opportunity there to really kind of roll out that information and education. How can you, as your husband and got andropause, or look for these symptoms and actually, start more conversations?
Yeah, I love that. I spoke to a gentleman the other day, and I said, why have you called? He said, my wife told me to.
Yeah, 80% of health decisions are made by the female in the household. So the more women that know about what we're talking about and all the symptoms and what you can do for more information, where you can go, what your options are, etc., the better. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, I'm smiling to myself because it was only I remember a couple of years ago, I had terrible rib pain. I was hobbling around the house, and Dram was like, "Go to the doctors." I was like, "It'll probably be fine. Like, it'll probably be gone by tomorrow." And Yeah. I can easily imagine 80% of decisions do come from the female in the relationship.
Yeah, and you know, like I say, from my relationship with my hormones, enable me to look at the men's side of things from a different lens. That's why our products are so different, because I know we wouldn't have treated female hormones like that. So I really do think that the women and the partners and the mums and are just kind of pivotal in changing this narrative, and hopefully accepting and being more embracing that the same things are happening to them. And also, you know, just let's look at what's going on with both of our hormones are struggling, aren't they, for environmental reasons, etc. I just think it's all helpful just to understand what's going on with our own bodies.
Yeah, 100%. Well, just one final thing to say, if that's okay. And I love the names that you've chosen.
Thank you.
I like them because, as you say, they're fun. I also like them because they're openly quite masculine words.
Yes.
And I think a lot of younger men are afraid to acknowledge their masculinity. And we could probably do a whole other podcast on this. I love the way you just put that out there and said, no.
Sheldon, yeah, and that's Sheldon. Sheldon felt really strongly about that. You know, to your point, he totally agrees that why are we afraid to talk about masculinity and talk about testosterone being fundamental to masculinity? It doesn't make you toxic at all. In fact, we're talking about how little of it we all have got and what we can do to help. And you know, that's also why you can tell we're a men's product. And I think, you know, we celebrate female hormones, and I don't know why we should be ashamed or not proud of the fact we should be able to talk about men in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. What's more likely to make a man frustrated and not on his game, having optimal testosterone or none?
Exactly. And also, you and I both know that that's why so many people around the world take all these illegal substances because everybody's chasing that. They all, you know, it's a strange dichotomy, isn't it? Everybody accepts that it's the secret weapon in ultimate performance and delivery and feel good, but we won't talk about not having it. It is strange, but you know, I really do feel like the female narrative, I honestly truly believe the next 5 years is going to see a massive fundamental shift in us talking about this, because also we can't not. We're going to really struggle with our health moving forward unless these conversations about men are out there.
Love it. Well, maybe, I'm not sure whether you do all of the videos or whether we could get Sheldon on next time too.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Talk about, the steroid abuse that's going on and talk about masculinity. I think I would love to do a chat on that.
You know, I really do think, like you do, the more men that men can relate to as well, that are out there and talk about these things, then someone else will say that's okay. And, you know, if that's going on with them, then I'm not ashamed to talk about it. You know, we need to see more of that.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Bertie, it's been a pleasure. Loved every minute.
Thanks for having me, Ross.
Get on with your day, and of course, we'll include all the links to your website when this goes out.
Thank you. Take care of yourself.